Okay, so following on from the last video, this time I'm going to use a salvaged plug from a piece of coax that was taken off some military equipment. Now, similar to the N-type, this is a BNC, and I've left it pretty much as it's come out of the plug. All I've done is I've removed this end cap, which will be the first thing to go onto the coax. And if we take it apart, you have the end plug on there, then you have a washer, then you have your rubber sealing ring, which goes up your cable. Then you have another washer. If I stop poking it back into the plug, another washer, and then we start to get back to where we were with the N-type connector. You have, if I pull this apart like that, you have your push fit section which pushes onto the braid, and if you can imagine that pushed onto the braid with a metal washer on the top, that's clamping the braid to this disc. So we would have to cut a section for that. Then again, carrying on, you have your plug mount, and unlike the civilian version, which just would have that going like that, the military tend to put a washer like that in there, so that when the two are clamped up, it forms an extra watertight seal. This is designed for field radios, and this is quite commonly used on the VHF sets that the military used to run round with. So of course the cable needed to be waterproofed from any sort of dunking it got and still work, so that soldiers could, radio back to base, say they needed assistance or whatever, and yeah, that little washer just made an extra bit of insulation and a bit of waterproofing, and as you see, it just fits round the larger centre pin. The soldering is the same, and it does have the Teflon ring there, as does the other type. So to put this together, and again we're just going to follow there. Somebody's decided to hit the printer button while I'm talking to you. We're going to cut a bit of the insulation round. Notice I'm not cutting so much this time because I'm not trying to sort of waste cable this time. We can pull that off. We can pull that off. Go on. There we go. We can drag that down, and it doesn't matter if you splay the braid out, because you're going to put the push fit ring right over the centre and push it up the centre of there. So you push that onto there to make a perfect fit. There's absolutely no way that you can say the braid isn't on the centre. Printing going again. And then what you do, again, you just go around the edge. You're only scoring, you're not cutting in. You just want to make enough of a mark to break the plastic away from the metal, and you can just slip your cutters in. You're not pushing with the cutters, you're pulling with the cutters like that. You just twist, making sure there's no whiskers coming out, and once you've twisted that tight you can pull that completely off, because you are going to cut it down. Now first I'm going to salvage this pin, so the only thing I have to do is put the soldering iron on it, wait for it to melt like that. That gives you some idea of the length of the cable that sticks through that you need to have exposed. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to pick the pin up, and I'm just going to take that ring off, and then I'm going to heat it from the bottom to melt whatever solder I can, and just flick it out. If I can get it melting enough, should be able to. As you see, the pin's smoking quite well, and we get a blob of solder out, and the back end of the pin still has solder in. Let's just make it hot again. And we can desolder through the hole as well and take some heat out from there. Sometimes it's better to do that than use any form of heatsink, because that way you're just heating the pin and the solder. And you see there was a blob fly out there, and the pin's come off. So let's just check the pin again. Yep, that's almost empty. So that's ready to take the next lot of solder. So I'm going to let that cool down for a minute, so let's give it 5 minutes and I'll speak to you soon. The eagle-eyed among you will have noticed that I've put things back in a different order, because while I was stopped I thought I'd check my manuals, and I looked up the Royal Signals information on how to put these plugs on properly, because it didn't seem right, and the rubber ring should be this side, not in the middle of the join. These two still go directly together, and I say directly together like so, because the plug depth means that this makes the seal round the pin and stops water flowing between not also the inner conductor but the outer conductor as well. So when you put this as a final assembly into here and push it down, and it comes to the point where the Teflon center reaches the end of the fluted bit, you then put in your double washered neoprene seal, neoprene rubber, whatever seal, and you push and you push and you push, but of course because you've got two washers on, it's very hard to seal. So your first washer is a real bummer to get down to there. So you then push that one down to there, you make sure it's all there, and then you push it in tight and it all goes in, and then you bring down your captive nut, and this is where you have to put some real force on the plug to actually get the first couple of threads to meet, like so. And then again you put your adjustable spanner on, and in this case I'm going to use the long nose pliers on the body of the BNC in that flat part. Again, Radio Spares RS Components adapter kit has the correct spanners to do both ends and hold the body correctly. So that is a working RF lead. Now, no, looks corroded, but the pin is good, the body is good, electrically it's very good. This is silver tarnish. These are genuinely silver plated plugs, so a little swipe with vinegar. I could electrolyse them with a little bit of salt water, or I could just rub them up with a bit of emery cloth or anything like that and they'll come back to shiny. But they don't need to be shiny to work. Another reason why they're not bright shiny, these are military plugs. You wouldn't want something that would reflect sunlight if you're trying to hide somewhere, and have bright shiny clean connectors glowing in the dark, glowing in moonlight, giving away your position. So yes, so that is actually my new RF lead, and that actually goes up through and round my bench to my signal generator and transmitter tester. So that's there. I'm now going to repeat pretty much the similar position, BNC plugs to various other types of plug. I've got PL259, I've got N-type, which takes small cable fittings, and I've got more BNC types. Just to make different leads, I'm going to need audio generator out, audio generator in, so that I can do receiver sensitivity measurement tests, and to give me some options. Now, the reason I put a BNC on the end of the main RF lead was because I find it's easier to convert from this to any other type of plug, dependent on the equipment being tested. Sometimes I have to test handhelds which have a BNC, sometimes I have TNC connectors, and sometimes they have SMA connectors which you require an adapter for. The BNC seems to be the universal go-to connector for adapters, so that's why I chose a BNC plug. If I was doing purely CB sets and only fixing CB sets, I would probably put the 259 on the end of the cable and run with things like that BNC adapter to make it a universal cable. But as I plan to do most of the stuff with lower power equipment rather than well, I wouldn't say lower power equipment, but with more commercial than consumer stuff, the most common plug I'm going to encounter is the BNC, closely followed by the N-type. So the RF lead is pretty much as it is now. The BNC leads will terminate in crocodile clips. They'll terminate in things like dummy aerials and things like that, just because for testing receivers you sometimes don't need a direct connection to an antenna socket like this. You need a capacitively coupled dummy antenna, so something that looks like an aerial to the radio you're testing, which is going to precede the Eddystone series that will appear on Friday, I believe, if I'm not giving away too much. So for now, I'm going to say thanks for watching and speak to you all soon. Bye bye for now.